Hello and welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast. My name is Scott Strasser and my co-host is Jason Komet. Hey, Jason.
Hey, Scott. We decided to switch it up this week. I kind of like it.
Yeah, we've only done this a couple of times where I do the intro. So a little bit of a change. I hope we didn't throw off any of our listeners, but it's always fun to do something like that. What's new with you?
Well, I just spent a little bit of time outside just prior to recording. It's chapter 1 in the ongoing battle of man versus squirrel.
Okay. All right. I think I need you to elaborate there.
We usually plant some sunflowers every year in our front yard, but in the past we've put up a fence to keep the squirrels out, and then last year we didn't put up the fence, so guess what? Nothing grew. So tonight we went outside and we planted the sunflower seeds, and we have a wire like chicken mesh type setup. It's about 3 feet high, and it's surrounding where all the sunflowers are. So we'll see if this works. It's worked in the past, so we'll see how it goes this year.
All right. I look forward to hearing about it. It's funny. My wife actually was planning to plant some carrot seeds today. Something about May long gets people out in the gardens. But considering we're not a horticulture podcast, Jason, would you like to relay to our listeners what it is we actually do talk about every week?
Sure. We focus on soccer in Calgary at the amateur, collegiate, and professional levels. We talk about the teams and the players from the city soccer community, starting at the grassroots, amateur leagues, and working all the way up to university and professional levels.
Yeah, and I think this episode is going to touch on pretty much all of that mandate. We have game previews to discuss for the city's two professional teams, Cavalry and the Calgary Wild. We're also going to review and preview action in the Alberta Premier League. And then we're also going to, I think, talk about the Alberta Major Soccer League for the first time this year. And we have an interview, Jason, just earlier today.
Yeah, we interviewed Isabelle Lachance, who plays for Villains here for her club soccer in Calgary. And she spent last year playing for the University of Saskatchewan Huskies.
Yeah, and she had a great rookie campaign for Saskatchewan last year. So expecting big things from her again in the fall when she goes back to Saskatchewan, but also expecting big things from her in the Alberta Premier League. Even though she was just probably 17 or 18 last year, she had a great season individually, scored a lot of goals, and I'm sure she'll be hoping to replicate that performance this time around.
For sure.
So we'll run that interview when we get to our APL segment, but I figured we would start with the professional team previews. Why don't we kick things off, Jason, with Cavalry's upcoming trip west?
Hey everybody, it's Nick Ledgerwood. You're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast. Enjoy.
So Cavalry FC is going to make its way to Langley this weekend. They have a Sunday night match, 7 p.m. against Vancouver FC. Kind of an odd time for a match, I kind of think, but hey, why not?
Yeah, I don't mind it, to be honest. I should be able to catch it live. But first time that Cavalry has faced Vancouver FC this season, a team that they have typically enjoyed playing against in the past. They usually get a win, sometimes a draw against this club, have still never lost to Vancouver FC, who are currently in 6th place in the Canadian Premier League with 4 points from 5 games. However, looking at their recent form, Jason, I noticed they are unbeaten in their last 3. So they're coming into the game in a decent run of form. Although I would add the caveat that 2 of those games came against opposition. Well, Langley United, an amateur team in the BC Premier League, and then Pacific FC, who are the bottom feeders of the CPL at the moment.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that I've followed Vancouver FC really closely, but I get the impression that they might have made a little bit of improvement this year, but they're still at this point. They seem to maybe be a cut below maybe some of the more elite teams at this point. But that being said, last year Cavalry didn't lose, but they really had trouble beating this team last year for whatever reasons. It was lots of draws.
Yeah, they dropped a lot of points against the Eagles, and I'm sure they're going to hope to avoid that situation this time around. Yeah, I admit I don't think I've seen a full Vancouver FC match yet this year, but looking at their games, they have definitely had a couple of decent results. That win against Pacific that I alluded to, that was a 3-1 win. So they did manage to pump a few goals past their BC rivals. And not too long ago, they drew Ottawa 1-1 at the end of April. So they started the season with a couple of defeats to the likes of Halifax and Forge, as well as York United, without a goal in their first 3 games. But since then, things have been improving.
There'll be one interesting face to keep an eye on Sunday night.
Yeah, that being former Cavalry defender Tom Field, who made the switch to Vancouver FC in the offseason. That's a switch we've seen quite a few former Cavalry players make over the years.
Any more thoughts about this match? I think, it's one where I think, definitely Calgary will be expecting to get 3 points. But anything else you want to talk about before we move on this one?
Not about this game in particular, but we have seen a few news releases from the Cavalry camp in the last week or so since we last recorded, Jason. Notably, they have announced a new goalkeeper coach, Jack Hadley, who comes from, I believe, England.
Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly the details of everything, but they hired Stuart Kerr as goalkeeper coach earlier, but I guess for whatever reasons they have parted ways, and we now have Jack Hadley taking over, and he's got a lot of experience in England, Chelsea and their academy system, Aldershot Town, Charlton Athletic, Queen's Park Rangers, So he's definitely got some experience, and he's going to take over being the main goalkeeper coach for the first team, the academy.
Yeah, I was thinking there's been a lot of consistency in the coaching of Cavalry FC in terms of, Tommy Wheeldon Jr. has been the head coach since day one. And while Martin Nash did leave after, I believe, 2 seasons with the club to go over to York, apart from him and I guess Leon Hapgood going to New York, like the coaching staff at Cavalry has been really consistent. But I would say that goalkeeper coach has not been as consistent. Hey, I believe Jack Hadley would be the 4th or 5th person in this role at the club since 2019.
Yeah, we're not quite at Spinal Tap drummers level yet, but there has been a bit of a revolving door there. So
in our weekend recap episode a few days ago, we talked briefly about the upcoming games against Vancouver Whitecaps in the next round of the Canadian Championship. The club has confirmed those dates and locations. So Cavalry will be heading to Vancouver to face the Whitecaps at Swangard Stadium on July 8th. That's a Wednesday night game. And the second leg will be the subsequent Monday, July 13th at Cofield.
Isn't it a bit odd that Cavalry gets the second match? Like, it probably benefits them, but doesn't it usually work out that the quote-unquote higher-ranked team usually gets the second match?
Yeah, and this will be the first time in the, I think, 4 occasions that Cavalry has faced the Whitecaps in this tournament that they will host the second leg.
Maybe that's got something to do with stadium availability or whatever. Swangard's used by, TSS Rovers, Vancouver Rise, I think Whitecaps too also. So it's a busy place. So maybe this is just when it was available. I don't know.
We know that the reason BC Place isn't going to be available is because of the World Cup that will be going on at the exact same time. Or we figure that's why.
Hi, this is Mya Jones. This is the YYC Soccer Podcast.
So while Cavalry is on the road this weekend, the Calgary Wild are going to be playing a home match at McMahon Stadium. They're playing the Montreal Roses again.
Yeah, it feels like they just played them, and that's because they did it not that long ago. But the Roses will be back at McMahon to face the Wild Saturday, 3 p.m. kickoff. This game is going to be on TSN, so it should get some good exposure, as was the case with, I guess, their first 2 games of the season. It looks like the Wild's injured player list is pretty extensive right now.
On the NSL website, they posted today, Thursday the 14th, the list of available players. And it mentions that Ali Hess, Anderson Williams, and Farkuna Mataj are out with injury, and Janae Robertson and Sarita Thurton are in doubt. So that's 5 names. But I'll tell you what, Scott, there's one name that's not on that list that really got my attention.
Probably Mya Jones?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that means that could we see Mya Jones make her debut for the Calgary Wild and also play her first professional game since early 2024? Like she's had quite the injury challenges in the last couple of years, but if she is ready to play, that's super exciting and definitely a key storyline for this game.
I got to take it that she must be available for this match. Who knows how much she'll play, but she was on that list listed as injured last week or 2 weeks ago. And yeah, maybe we're going to see her. That'd be pretty cool.
We also saw Sonia O'Neill removed from the injury list, and she actually did play in the Alberta Premier League for the Wild U23s last weekend. We also, Caitlin Talbert, the new goalkeeper, is off the list, as is striker Collie Johnson.
Getting back to Montreal, though, this is a really strong team right now. They've got a perfect record.
Yeah, 3 wins in 3 games. And they did beat the Wild in one of those games in the home opener that we were at a few weekends ago, 2-0. So yeah, strong defense, strong offense. It's kind of reminiscent of last year when they kind of stormed out of the gates in the Northern Super League and took a early pole position in the league standings.
For sure. We've been focusing on the pitch stuff right now, but there was a pretty significant announcement regarding the Wild when it comes to the boardroom and the front office.
Yeah, they announced a new majority owner, Alyssa Mitchell, who is an American-based entrepreneur who has family roots in Winnipeg. She has become the Calgary Wild's largest independent investor, acquiring a 41% stake in the club.
I think it's a bit surprising. I don't think we really saw this specifically on the radar screen. We know that the NSL in general has been looking to add owners to various franchises. So she's got an interesting history as an entrepreneur, and she's been involved with a luxury streetwear brand. I guess we'll see what happens. But people investing in this league is not a bad thing.
No. And this actually increases the proportion of women-led capital in Calgary Wild ownership from 56% to 76%, which is a pretty impressive ratio, Jason. She joins the likes of Chair Deanna Zumwalt, Lara Murphy. So yeah, good to see her step up and get involved with professional sports in Calgary. Wasn't sure the connection. I mean, they mentioned her family roots in Winnipeg. I don't know if she has ties to Calgary, has been here or before or not. But yeah, kind of an interesting announcement to get from the club this week.
Well, hopefully we can find out more in the next week or two.
One other thing about the Wild before we move on to the APL segment, a news release we got from them today about a new campaign that they're launching alongside the Alberta Women's Health Foundation. Jason, it's kind of an eye-catching PR stunt, if you want to call it that. They're going to be, I guess, giving a symbolic rebrand to McMahon Stadium. They're going to be calling it McWoman Stadium for the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's kind of, it's catchy, right? Like it gets your attention. Mission accomplished that way.
And I guess if people are curious why they're doing this, it's for a couple of different reasons. But this campaign with the Alberta Women's Health Foundation is all about raising awareness of the lack of funding and attention paid toward women's health research. So you think about the amount of funding and grants that researchers get to study things like ovarian cancer, cervical cancer, cancers that affect women specifically. And also, if you think about things like multiple sclerosis, like that impacts women disproportionately compared to men. So that is why they're doing this. They want to raise awareness of the fact that women's health research is kind of underrepresented compared to more broader health-related research. But they're also doing it to kind of bring awareness to the fact that for the first time in McMahon Stadium's 60-plus year history, they are hosting, the stadium is hosting a professional women's sports team. And they mentioned that they had to kind of do some things to modify like the locker rooms and stuff to make them a little bit more women-friendly, Jason. Like they did have to add like feminine hygiene product dispensers. I think they took out all the urinals in their locker room. They updated the showers somehow. So it kind of, they want people to know, like, we're playing in a stadium that was built way before women's sport was given the time of day and way before anyone ever had the thought that, maybe a professional women's team will play here one day.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that piece of it about, some of the renovations. Interesting.
Yeah, so this campaign, it's not just an awareness thing. People can participate if they want. There's going to be a couple of digital billboards scattered around town that show Wild players kind of in action, and it's going to say McWoman Stadium, and then things like "It's finally time," or and they just want people to take part by like snapping a pic of that, posting it to social media with a certain hashtag or tagging the team. So it is kind of just a fun thing. They're not actually renaming McMahon Stadium. They're just kind of doing a PR stunt or a marketing stunt, but kind of creative and kind of a neat story.
For sure.
Hi there, it's Isabelle Lachance, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
So in terms of the Alberta Premier League, not that many games on tap, Jason. We do have a matchup between Calgary United and Cavalry's Reserves. Friday night, 6 p.m. kickoff over at SAIT, but looks like a pretty quiet weekend in the APL compared to usual.
I seem to remember, I think in the very first year of the league existence, I think Diogo Raposo from the Blizzard made a comment that the league was going to make a conscious effort to not schedule very many games on the long weekends to give the players a chance to actually have kind of fun in the summertime. So it seems like they have continued that on into now, the third year of the league?
Yeah, and I guess, if you're going to do that, why not do it on a long weekend? I guess now is a good time to run our interview with Isabelle Lachance. As mentioned, plays for the USask Huskies as well as Villains. Coming off a really strong year, hey? She was named to the U Sports All-Rookie team in 2025, and she scored 8 goals in League One Alberta last year, and she has 1 goal so far in her first 2 matches, so on track to try and replicate that. Let's hear from Isabelle now. I'd like to welcome Isabelle Lachance to the podcast. Isabelle is a forward and winger for the University of Saskatchewan Huskies during the Canada West season, as well as Calgary Villains in the Alberta Premier League. Isabelle, thank you for coming on our podcast. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So we know a little bit about your career thus far, but for our listeners who perhaps aren't as familiar with your journey, can you kind of share your background? We know that you're originally from Calgary and your playing career thus far. Like, which clubs did you play for? How did you become a University of Saskatchewan player, etc.?
Yeah, so I grew up in Calgary. I started doing community soccer that my mom ran, and then from that, I went to West Hills United with Gerardo Sosa. He's amazing. And I stayed at that club for as long as I could have. Then I decided that I need to make a change and go to a club that was just a little bit bigger. So Villains had a combine, and it was actually the first season of AYSL. So they were trying to get AYSL teams, and they only had boys. So the rule was that they could only get into the league if they had a boys team and a girls team. So they were trying to get a girls team going. So I went to the combine. I was approached by Coach Manib, and I was with Villains ever since, and I quite love it there. I played AYSL, and then that kind of led to the opportunity of meeting Jerson and going out and training with the University of Saskatchewan, and I just really love the environment and the community that the girls had there. And I decided that it was the university for me. I thought that the team was great, and then also I am trying to become a vet, so the school is pretty good for veterinary medicine as well.
Interesting you mentioned Manib. He's been at Villains forever. Like, that's a name even I recognize from 15 years ago.
Yeah, he's amazing. Coach Manib, definitely, I owe a lot to him as a player. He definitely developed my skills.
In our intro, we mentioned you played forward. So do you have a preferred position? Like mentioned a little bit, winger, forward, like you like being number 9, number 10. What do you like to play?
My preferred position is probably left wing. I like cutting in more and then shooting with my right foot. But I also like going as striker, just wherever I can be on the field. As long as I'm on the field, I'm happy.
So let's talk about Alberta Premier League, formerly League One Alberta. Last year, you played in League One as like a rookie, I would say. I mean, still in high school, right? Grade 12, and playing against older players. So what was that like, and how do you feel that aided in your development as you went off to the University of Saskatchewan in the fall?
Yeah, it was definitely a change. In the AYSL Youth League, we were definitely the underdog team. So it was a big change going on a team with a lot of MRU girls, a lot of older girls, and being able to be part of a team with just like higher intensity and girls that actually want to be there and show up. So that was a big change and I really enjoyed that. And yeah, it was just a great experience playing at that higher level. And I think it really helped me gain confidence going into university because obviously I was able to perform in the league in League One, and that kind of gave me the confidence that I would be able to go up against these university girls.
Last year, when you played, as we talked about, you were playing against older players generally, but you had a pretty successful season. You were right up at the top of the Golden Boot race there. You were right in the contention there. Does getting a shot at maybe trying to win the Golden Boot this year, does that motivate you to this summer at all?
For sure. I think this year is definitely the standards are so much higher this year, which is really exciting to see. I know last year was kind of just more of a building year. So I think the league was quite a bit weaker last year, and I was able to maybe stand out a little bit more than this year. But I'm definitely still trying to get those goals and maybe get that boot. But I'm really just using League One as a way to just get ready and prepare for university next year. So I'm not really looking for like the golden boot, but it would definitely be an added bonus.
Can you talk a little bit more about your time with the Huskies and how that has helped you grow as a player? Obviously, it's not that close to Calgary, so it's a big move to go that far away from home and be that far from family when you're studying and balancing academics with athletics. How has that kind of maybe helped you grow up, to a better term? Like, what has it done for you both as a player and as a person?
Yeah, I definitely feel a lot more grown up now than I did when I first left. I've always kind of been more independent, and back home I like house sit a lot, so I already had kind of a bit of experience living away from home. But it is a big move. Like we're 7 hours away and very independent, but just Saskatchewan does feel like home now. Like the group of girls and the community there is just so amazing. My roommate, Amela, was just so fun to be with, and I just had the most amazing time, and I definitely gained a lot of confidence and was able to open up not only on the pitch, but off the pitch as well, and I think I really grew up and matured in a lot of ways.
You talked about for this year and this summer season that you're looking at, trying to get ready for the Canada West season in the fall. But are there any specific areas of your game that you're really focusing on trying to improve right now? Your scoring touch, I think we know you've got that. But are there other aspects of your game you're working on?
Yeah, I think the thing I'm working on the most right now is just like my mentality. I think a lot of people don't work on mentality a lot, and it's definitely a game changer. So I just want to work on staying composed on the field and my confidence and just being able to take my 1v1s. And I do think I can be a little bit more clinical on the ball and obviously trying to just build a little bit more variation so people can't really expect what I'm going to do when I'm on the ball.
A similar question. What do you think are some of your attributes or qualities as a player that you think have contributed to your success in your career so far? Like what kind of sets you apart?
I don't think I'm the most technical player, but I think what sets me apart is just that I'm always going to just work the hardest on the field, and I might not be the best at everything, but I'm going to try the best. And I think growing up, I always just wanted to be the fittest on the field and pace abuse and that kind of stuff. And then the technical abilities will come later on. So I think my athleticism and just ability to just push through pain and just keep going, I guess.
Are there any particular opponents or matches that you're looking forward to in this APL season? And why would you be looking forward to those games in particular?
I think the hardest games will be against Blizzards probably just because their back line is so mature and a lot older. So that'll be a difficult challenge, which will be fun. And then I think it'll also just be fun. We've already played BTB, but it would be fun to play BTB again when Jenna Stacy's there, just seeing a familiar face on the field as well as Foothills playing against Julie Randall in the back. That'll be fun to see. I just think all the teams are so much better this year, so it'll be really interesting to see where our team stands once we start getting going a little bit more.
You mentioned that you want to be a vet, and
Mhm.
that's why maybe one of the reasons why you went to the University of Saskatchewan. How about soccer? Like, do you see yourself continuing to play, high level soccer, obviously throughout your university career, and but maybe beyond? Like, do you have a high level
Mhm.
aspirations in the sport as well?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely would love the opportunity to play professional sometime in my career. I was really lucky when I was younger. Villains had the opportunity. We did a bunch of fundraising, and Coach Manib organized us to go to Spain, and we trained at the Real Madrid facility. And that was just the most amazing experience I've ever had in my life. And it kind of just made me really love the game that much more, but just like I like that European style, and I wanted to go and play in Europe. So I think I would definitely love to play in Europe or even in Canada if I'm given the chance, just anywhere that'll take me. I would love to get that experience and just travel the world. And yeah, definitely.
I think that's pretty much we're getting to the end here. So is there anything else you want to add? Any shout outs, anything you want to say before we wrap things up?
I guess I'll just shout out Calvin just because he does such a amazing job with the club and Villains. Villains wasn't really it was not really seen as one of the bigger clubs, I guess, and it was mostly just like a male club in the beginning years, and he's done just such an amazing job with the youth and making the club just so much bigger and putting in that bubble, and he's just putting in so much work, and you wouldn't expect him to have a full-time job on top of this. So shout out Calvin and Coach Manib and everyone there, and then everyone back in Sask, so Jerson. But yeah.
Thank you, Isabel, for answering all our questions and sharing your story with us. We really appreciate it. And we wish
Mhm.
you the best of luck, both with the rest of the APL season as well as the upcoming U Sports campaign with the Huskies.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, this is Bella Tarico, and you are listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
Okay, we've talked about the Alberta Premier League, which is the top amateur league in the province, but there is another amateur league that's been in the province for a much longer time, and they recently kicked off their latest season.
Yeah, the Alberta Major Soccer League started quietly last weekend. It's worth noting, though, that, they've kind of, even though the AMSL has, I think, lost a bit of its former thunder since the arrival of the League One system, they have actually expanded the league this year to 10 teams, including 2 divisions of 5 teams each.
Yeah, I had no idea this was happening until I went to the AMSL site and saw that. But historically, they've had 4 teams in the south and 4 teams in the north. And typically, the 4 teams in the north are in the Edmonton area, like usually a few Edmonton teams and maybe St. Albert. And in the south, it's been 3 Calgary teams and a Lethbridge team. But on both the men's and women's side, in the South Division, Calgary Rangers has been added to the mix.
Yeah, so that means that in the south on the men's side, there's now Lethbridge FC, Rangers, Villains, Blizzard, and Callies United.
And in the South Division, in the women's division, there's Callies United, Blizzard, Foothills, Rangers, and Lethbridge FC.
Biggest thing that jumps out to me is obviously there's no more dinosaurs or dinos.
Yeah, that last year I think they started to call that team the Calgary Blizzard Dinos or Blizzard Dinosaurs or whatever, but now they're just full out Blizzards. So we probably won't be doing weekly updates or anything about AMSL, but we'll probably check in from time to time. The only other thing I kind of noticed is, especially over the springtime, like May and June, almost all the matches are on Wednesday nights. So I guess they're doing that to avoid any conflicts with the APL.
Does that mean that there could maybe be some crossover in terms of players playing in both leagues?
Definitely. Most of these teams are now treating their AMSL team as the feeder team for the APL team. So players are getting called up. If you look at the lists, there are some players that are listed as, AMSL players, but they'll end up playing a few matches this year with the APL teams.
That's kind of great that players can, play potentially 2 or 3 competitive games in 1 week. Maybe that's a little bit too much for, considering maybe their university coaches are looking at their schedules with a little bit of nervousness. But overall, I mean, the opportunity to play that much is something that just didn't exist in the past.
Thank you for listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast. You can have this podcast downloaded to your device as soon as it becomes available by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or other platforms. Check out our website at yycsoccer.com, where you can look through our episode archive and find other options to listen, including our YouTube channel. We also have links there to buy Scott's book, Here Come the Cavalry. It's all about Calgary's pro soccer history. You can leave a question or comment in the Contact Us section of our website. You can also interact with us on social media, such as X, Instagram, Blue Sky, where our username is @YYCSoccer403. Thanks for listening.